If you don't know what you're looking at on your screen, you're probably not alone. This is not an artist rendering. This is a living creature, living organism, and one that you have to be very aware of because a military just weaponized that creature you see on your screen. It's not cute, it's not warm, it's not fuzzy. It is something that has horrific implications. We're going to cover the story today. You've probably maybe seen this image of a tardigrade, is the name of it. An indestructible animal would survive a planet-wide apocalypse. Imagine the implications. This will literally change you from the inside out, which may throw you off as a storyline to begin with, but it shouldn't. Because there's somebody toying with this animal right now. Also known as a water bear. What a cute name for something that has now devastating implications for mankind. Tardigrades are tiny water-dwelling creatures famed for their resiliency. The 8-legged invertebrates can survive for up to 30 years without food or water, can endure wild temperature extremes, radiation exposure, and even the vacuum of space. Well, coming out of China now, Chinese team behind extreme animal gene experiment says it may lead to, and what it leads to is going to be the focus of our story today. Now, before I get there, a couple favors from you. First, if you haven't subscribed to Lisa, even if you think you did, please check that you have. Make sure your bell is checked so you're alerted to upcoming broadcast. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, Lisa will put a link above. That means the world to us, so you can continue to follow us. But most important to both of us, and this will only go on for 48 hours, there is a reason right now we are building Restricted Republic. If you've been watching the news and you expect that any of the free platforms are going to continue to exist and you'll be able to get the news that matters, then you haven't been paying attention to the news. It's why we created Restricted Republic. Again, 48 hours only. Discount code FOREVER4. That's right, $4 a month. Plus, this weekend, 14 days for free. And by the way, we just put up a community page where we'll share all the real-time news, and you'll see what actual comments sound like that aren't altered or filtered by people just like you. RestrictedRepublic.com. But now let's get on with this broadcast. So where we left off was a Chinese team. I know, storyline we've heard before, right? Probably experimenting with something they shouldn't be experimenting with. We'll uncover that hidden section in just a moment. All about this animal, as some articles say. Organism, creature, call it what you will. It's actually innocent in this story. It's doing nothing wrong, but it's what's being done with a portion of it that goes to frame in everything. Everybody's been experimenting with these tardigrades for years. Crashed Israeli lunar lander spilled tardigrades on the moon. Why would they do that? Why would they experiment it with? Well, they can again, and this is extremely relevant to the story, can survive extreme temperatures, pressures, the frigid vacuum of space. They don't mind being exposed to radiation. That's the key to everything. And they're all-around tough little creatures. When dehydrated, they roll up into a spore-like state that slows down their metabolic rate by about 100-fold, enabling them to survive for potentially over 100 years. Now imagine harnessing all that energy, all that power, and going ahead and putting it inside a human. How are they doing this? Who's doing it? I'm sure you've heard of CRISPR-Cas9. We've covered it many times. That DNA editing, now available in almost every scientific lab. Well, China's doing it. They're taking the tardigrades, and they're taking the DNA of tardigrades, and they're splicing it into human genes. That is what they are testing right now. What would that accomplish? It could make what some would say super soldiers, but imagine perfecting the science and being able to make sure your entire population is protected against nuclear fallout. Well, then would you be so afraid to strike an enemy? This is the science. This is the report. China says U.S. bringing world closer to nuclear war. A lot of talks about this recently. Building their army to surpass any foe. And now that Chinese team behind the extreme animal gene experiment says it may lead to super soldiers who survive nuclear fallout. Modified human embryonic stem cells showed supernatural resistance against radiation, according to a paper by the Academy of Military Sciences team in Beijing. We know it comes out of China. We don't know if it's the truth, but I can tell you there is a long history of testing with this creature, and it is not a stretch of the imagination that they have found a way to do it. Very familiar storyline to many of you, I'm sure. Actually, let's get out of this screen. I want to make this a little bit larger. Having isolated the tardigrade's gene capable of producing shield-like proteins which could protect against radiation and other harms, the Chinese team said it found a way to introduce this gene into human DNA using CRISPR-Cas9, a gene editing tool now available in most biolabs. In their laboratory experiment, nearly 90% of the human embryonic cells carrying the water bear gene, that's right, the tardigrade gene, survived a lethal exposure to X-ray radiation. According to the team led by Professor Yuan with the Radiation Biotechnology Laboratory at the Academy of Military Sciences, which is the Chinese military. Implications are staggering. Adding an alien gene, however, there is warnings. This could change you from the inside out. China hoping it makes you a super soldier, a protected citizen, whatever it ends up being. However, scientists are saying anytime you mess with genes, which we've seen all too often lately, bad things could happen. It could lead to harmful mutations or even kill the cells because of the genetic gap between the two species. A risk Yu's team was aware of, but continued forward testing anyway. The shield proteins are unique to the water bears. The immunity response after cross-species expression is unknown. How will the human body react when these are fully introduced into a subject? It can lead to some safety issues, but I digress. This is unprecedented. Chinese genetic experiment may lead to army of radiation-resistant super soldiers is just the tip of the iceberg. With this headline that came out, of course, most of the mainstream media either will choose not to cover it or not catch it, but here you will always get the news that may impact our very existence, and this may be in the very near future, because a Chinese team opening up a can of worms unlike anything that has been seen before. A technology that was supposed to, again, be made for the good of mankind, to be able to fix damaged DNA, shocker, shocker, is being used for more devious means and purposes. It's a storyline that is all too common as these scientists continue to delve into regions that, well, why do you need to delve into them? Why do you need to test? Why do you need to find out what's going to happen? Well, in the case of China, we know exactly why. They have one ambition, and that is world domination, and they are going at all costs to achieve it. This is yet another stepping stone into making them as indestructible as the tardigrade is by introducing it into a human being. Can only imagine what will come out of this. Wanted to share that story with you. Don't forget the offer to Restricted Republic forever for 48 hours only. We love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.